everybody, I'm gonna make a video on my nanny jobs. I had one in 2010, I believe, and the one I currently have now. I did not go to school for it because I know there is a school for it, like professional nanny school. I did not do that. I personally think that if you've been around kids your whole life, like I have, and you've taken courses that have to do with childhood development and things like that, and if you worked in daycare, whatever the case is, then I think that's professional. So you take it for what it's worth, but I consider myself a nanny, or professional, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's my job, so of course I'm gonna say, I'm not gonna say like to people like, oh, I'm a professional nanny. No, I'm just gonna say, oh, I'm a nanny. But I do consider it my profession or my job. Yes, I do. So my first job, I made this video yesterday, and it turned out to be like 30 minutes long. So I'm gonna redo it and kind of speed through things. So my first job was in 2010, from August to January of 2011. When I first started, I knew it was a temporary job. I knew that they were going to move. She said in October, but they didn't move until January of the next year. So I was really, that summer, I was really desperate for a job. Things were kind of crazy around my house, and I just needed a job. And school was raising their tuition again, and I was like on like a payment plan where you pay a certain amount of money every month. So I didn't want to put that burden on my mom, so I wanted to find a job so I could at least pay for my schooling, or some of it, or whatever the case was. I ended up paying for most of it in increments, because like I said, it's like once a month you pay this amount. So I was able to do that. So that's why I was really desperate for a job. So I was so desperate that I went to so many interviews, and so many, applied for so many jobs online, and it got so draining where I'm like desperate for anybody who will take me, So I ended up being hired by a lady, a work at home woman, and her husband worked at home as well, and they had 2 boys, 4 months when I started and 3 years old. I will tell you their names. Charlton was the baby, the youngest, and Marcus was the 3-year-old. I was kind of under the impression that I was only going to take care of the 3-year-old for most of the time, and it turned out that like maybe a month, 2 months into it, kind of when she felt comfortable with it, I had the baby the whole day as well. I worked from 8 to 1, and then had my break from 1 to 3, and worked from 3 to 6. I stayed at their house from 1 to 3. I could have gone home, did whatever, but it was just a waste of time in my opinion, and I used that time to really dive into my schoolwork. I took that time to study, read, write papers, whatever, and that was the first time that I had school and had a job, and I got all A's, and that 2 break really helped me out. So yeah, so from 8 to 1 I had the boys, and from 3 to 6 I had the boys, and it was a long day. And the 3-year-old was very, he's a very sweet little boy. Loved, loved, animals and, planes and trains and all that kind of stuff. He had like these little stuffed, like filled with like bean bags, and they're kind of like gushy feeling, like rubber on the outside, but squishy, like lobster, crab, dolphins. He was obsessed with animals, and he was at the age where he asked, like, what does everything start with? What does C start? What does car start with? What does snake start with? Obsessed with snakes, obsessed with pink mouse. He would ask me, "Can I see your pink mouth?" He watched a lot of movies, a lot of Toy Story 3 was big in December. Finding Nemo, loved Finding Nemo. Loved Fishtail movie, which if you've never seen it, it's a movie where they're like fish, and in one of the scenes of the movie, it's like a whale car wash where they go inside the whale's mouth and clean the whale's mouth out. Loved that scene. He loved that scene. And I think one of them like burps or something, or barfs or whatever. He loved that scene, and ever since then it was like, "Can I see your pink mouth?" So yeah, he was a sweet boy, but he had a lot of, I don't want to say issues, but he was very physically abusive to his brother. Very physically abusive. He would punch him, hit him, kick him, bite him, push him. When Charlton started to learn to crawl, they stand on all fours and go back and forth, he would just randomly just push him, and Charlton would fall flat on his face and start crying. And Marcus would have this like smirk look on his face, like, "Yeah, I did it," and he was just very abusive to his brother. Now, I don't know if the parents ever like introduced him to the baby, or had him involved with the pregnancy, or with the baby coming home, or whatever. I'm not sure that they did that. And if they didn't do that, and if they would have done that, maybe things would have been very different, because he was very jealous. And it wasn't just when he was 4 months old, it was when he was almost 9 months old. And they're 5 and 2 now, and I'm very curious on what the relationship is like, because he was very abusive to him. He would like be out to get him. I've never seen that in a child. Like, he was like so resentful against his brother that he was like out to get him. It was very disturbing. At first I thought it was like, oh, a phase, whatever, he's jealous. And then it kept happening. I'm like, wow, this is not just a phase. This has something more to do with it. And I don't think it might have been a little jealousy, but I think it was more than that. I mean, he was out to get him. You couldn't leave them together in the same room. I had to be cautiously aware of them two together if I had to do stuff. I was not just watching two kids. I had to do laundry, dishes, vacuum, sweep, make the boys their food, do dishes, did I say that? Empty out the dishwasher, clean the counters, sweep the floor, vacuum the rug. Almost did that every day, because she was very neat brickish, and she did not want her house to look like there was kids that lived there, apparently. So it was so hard to get anything done, because I had to always like be looking out for him to turn on his brother. Like, he would be like, okay, watching TV, fine, And then if he looked at him and like, okay, I could do something to him, you know, I ended up like folding laundry or doing dishes when the boys were upstairs for those 2 hours because I couldn't get anything done. And I mean, I tried, especially when Charlton was taking his morning nap, because he would take his morning nap around 10:30. And yes, I had the TV on. I'm not afraid to admit it. Marcus did watch TV for a little bit of the morning when I was there, to get things done, to occupy him, so I can get things done without worrying about him tackling his brother. He watched TV, and then I would put the baby to sleep. He would sleep in a stroller downstairs, and I had like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe an hour until the baby woke up. So I would turn off the TV and me and Marcus would play, and he loved when I, would draw things, and I draw snakes, airplanes. When it was around December, he loved Frosty the Snowman. Love Frosty. Always, can you draw Frosty? So I would draw Frosty the Snowman. Around Christmas, remember those Beanie Babies? I had one that was like a little snowman, and I gave it to him for Christmas, and he loved it. I emailed his mom last year around this time, March, April, and she said he still sleeps with it. So I don't know if he still does now. He's 5, but yeah, he loved it. So we would play. We'd do arts and crafts, educational things. Yeah, that's what we would do. And I would then, if it was the mom wanted them to eat at 11:30 every day, and so I would kind of time it where, okay, if the baby's not up, I can go hurry up and get lunch ready. Marcus's lunch ready, heat my lunch up, because I brought my lunch, heat the baby's lunch up. So I would hurry up and do that before the baby would wake up. And most of the time, towards the end, I think when he was like 6, 7, 8 months old, yeah, the last half of the year, I was pretty lucky that he would stay asleep until I was like almost done with everything. So he was a very clingy baby, so I had like a limited time to get everything done, because I'm more productive with 2 hands instead of one on the hip. I did that most of the time, but I just felt like I was more productive with 2 hands, So I tried to time it where when he was asleep, I would hurry up and get stuff done, because then we would eat, and like 8 times out of 10 I was fighting Marcus with the food, like, eat your food, eat your lemon beans, da-da-da. And yes, most of the time not most of the time, but a little bit of the time, he was watching TV while he was eating, and I'm not afraid to say that. That was the only time that I got to really focus on, if the baby was up, to focus on the baby and feed the baby, and because baby was very cranky and whiny and a sweet baby, but he just wanted mom all the time and did not want me, and most of the time I was fighting with that separation. Times where I think it was like 6 months or so, when Charlton was 6 months, I would feed the baby on this little bumbo on the counter. Yeah, I was so cautious about that, because I know kids can fall down, but I never left his side when he was in it. And he wasn't a very wormy kind of baby, but yeah, I was very cautious about that. So I would have everything set up, and then I would feed the baby. I'd feed myself, 2 in 1. And then Marcus would sit on the stool, and we'd talk about things, and he would laugh. I loved his laugh. It was just very sweet, innocent, peaceful moment when we had those, because we didn't have those very often. And then kids would go in bed, go to sleep, hopefully, and then around 3 o'clock, I'm not afraid to admit, I was exhausted. I wanted to go home. 9 times out of 10, I was exhausted by 3 o'clock, and most of the time, I would, maybe once in a while, I wouldn't have both kids at 3 o'clock. I would have mostly Marcus, because Charlton would be sleeping. Because towards the end, I mean, like I said before, he didn't sleep more than an hour at most. So it all depends on when he went to sleep. But like, you know, have a snack, make cookies, run around outside, play with Play-Doh. I try to do activities where it mainly involved just him, like just, you know, Play-Doh and stuff like that. And if the baby was up, then they had like this jumpy thing outside for the baby, so I'd put the baby in that, and that was like the only time where he was content. He would jump. He loved to do that, and I could get stuff, you know, if I had to hurry up and do something, like throw the load in the washer or the dryer, then I could. But yeah, they loved outside. I had to get activities where at the end of the day, like around 3, 4, that Marcus could just do by himself, so I could just like zone out. Because I was mentally, physically exhausted. So most of the time when I was sitting there doing my homework, I was like dozing off. I was that tired. They wore me out completely. So then, okay, I'll stop this video and I'll make another one.